Hey everybody, and welcome to the Split, a young adult book review podcast and booktuber, I should say these days, for readers and writers. And as you can probably tell, it's Robert speaking here. So Brian is still not with us, but we have sourced some fantastic co-hosts. Last week we had Trudy J from the, now I'm going to try, Trudy, you'll hate me for this, I can't remember your series, the Circus series. But today I'm with H.J. Lawson, who I should probably be calling Hayley, of the Sanctions series and the War Kids series. You can find Hayley or HJ at hjlawson.com. That's spelt as you would think. And currently I see that PureNet Book One is free, Hayley. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Also, the War Kids is free as well. And
these are young adult books. So since we are a young adult book review podcast, you should feel free to go over and grab those anytime you wish. So Hayley and I today will be reviewing the Immortal Rules by Julie Kagawa. And Julie Kagawa has a pretty sort of large market share of the young adult space. She's a much-loved author. But before we get into it, let me do the usual summary, and then we'll get right ahead. So welcome, Hayley. Thanks for joining me. I'm just going to go through this quick summary, and then we'll have a bit of a yarn about the book.
Okay, wonderful.
Great, thank you. Alison Sekimoto hates vampires. Unfortunately, she lives in a post-apocalyptic world where, after a virus killed most of humanity or turned them into rabbids, a sort of vampire gone wrong, the vampires, or bloodsuckers as she called them, have become the ruling class. To avoid becoming a source of food for the vampires who rule her city, New Covington, Alison chooses not to be registered. Unfortunately for Alison, that means scavenging and existence with the other unregistereds in small gangs inhabiting the fringe. Most of the time, hunger is the main driving force, and Ali has become quite the street fighter. Until one day, her hunger and the lack of food available at her usual scavenging haunts drive her to explore outside the city, a trip regarded by many as foolish or maybe fatal. For Alison, it is fatal, with one dire consequence. She is resurrected from the point of death by another vampire, and now she is one of them, a bloodsucker. But a bloodsucker who might just be able to save the world from a slow death by bloodsucking. So, and there are no spoilers in that, by the way, because the action happens in this book pretty fast, and that was one of the things that I really loved about it. Is it's pretty much a non-stop read, page by page. It gets right into the action, and one of the wonderful things that I liked about it is it's not really the de rigueur sort of vampire thing. And Julie Kagawa, obviously, she in her author notes, she said she didn't want to write the typical vampire story. So, Hayley, what did you think?
I actually love this story. I'm a big fan of Blade and Daybreakers.
Right.
And I'm not really a Twilight person. I'm more of the action-adventure person. So this book really had it for me. I liked the strong lead character. I'm a big lover of just like really kick-ass characters, and she totally had it for me. So I was a huge fan of this book, like every element.
yeah, exactly. It's amazing, isn't it? Every aspect of Ali, she's feisty, she makes mistakes, she's snarky, she's a street scrapper, and she's determined not to be one of these vampires yet. Within the first few pages, it's her worst nightmare. It's a great book, and you can tell it's written by an experienced writer as well. There's lots of a nice balance of description. I like the fact that the story unfolds and then takes unexpected turns. That's one of my favourites in action books. Is when the action is not just action, but you get the unexpected action that still makes sense. Within the setting. What else did you like about the story?
I really liked how it was broken up into the four pieces, where you had the human, the vampire, the monster, and the wanderer. I liked the concept of the 4 books in one book, because it really made the story evolve. It allowed the world building to expand, because of the different journeys, and you learned more about the character, and her character grew as you grew with the character, almost as understanding the landscape. So I really liked the concept of the 4 books within the one book. I thought that was so good, because I'm a big fan of shorter novels, so you can read them quickly. This one obviously isn't that short. It's,
No.
I listened to the audio, it's around 15 hours,
Yes.
but it was totally worth it. Like once I'd finished it, I was like, okay, I'm ready for the next one. I want to listen to the next one. I can't say I just really enjoyed the story.
And I've been wanting to read this as well, and 15 hours for Brian is one of his long ones, so it was really great that you agreed to listen along. How was the audio, by the way? We'd like to reflect on that.
So the audio, I've listened to a lot of audiobooks, probably two a month at the moment I'm listening to, because I work in an office designing and working, so I have a lot of time where I can work and listen to audiobooks.
Nice.
So it's great for me, these audiobooks. I loved the narrator so much. I emailed her, and which I don't normally do. Actually, that's a lie. I do normally email everybody. And I emailed her and I asked her if she would be interested in working with me in the future on a project, and she said yes. So she was very pleased at. But the flow of the narrator and how she told the story and how it evolved. But with the being the first person, the way that she evolved the male characters is always very tricky.
Yes.
And she was able to do it. It was perfect. I actually thought it was two narrators at some point. When the story progresses into monster and you get the other characters playing a larger role. But the way that she was able to transport it from the male characters and the female characters, it was really, really good. So I've been chatting to her because I'm now a fan of hers.
That's great, a fangirl moment. That's really cool. I love it.
She emailed me back and I was so excited.
Oh, brilliant. I think Brian will be pleased to hear that as well, because it might probably add it back to his to be listened to list, because I know he does enjoy a really good audio rendition, and I think it's quite nice on the show that we're actually able to do that, because there are times when some books don't work as well in print, or they're hard going in print. Blood Red Road is one of them, where you don't have any dialogue quotes, for example, so you really have to be a persistent reader, whereas that doesn't matter for audio. The narrator can handle that.
Yeah.
And also if there are lots of misspellings and such, you may not even notice them in audio.
No.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, which is great. So you can really get into the story. Okay, nice. So it's a big thumbs up for the audio.
Oh, yeah.
It's 15 hours, and you've recognised quite clearly that there are 4 books in there. So how does that play out? Did you feel that the sections were very different in the way they came across in the book then, or was it something just stuck in your mind?
Yeah, I actually felt that there was definitely a break between the different stories.
Right.
And it was very, the way that she's the human and then she evolves into the vampire and the monster elements. And is she the monster, really? And then the end, I love the last section within the story. To me, they did seem very much like single books as the character evolved. And I loved the way that it progressed, and it was a winner for me.
Definitely a big winner for me too. I would easily give this 5 stars. It really is. It's a fun book. It's pacey and it's long and it's got complexity. And as you say, those 4 different sections really show that there's a journey. There is actually a literal journey as well, and then we've got the arc of Ali, which is substantial. And I think from a sort of a YA perspective, and I guess we'll get to this when we talk from a writer's perspective, but certainly from the intended audience, and you know this audience well because you write to it, they kind of expect that there's some self-questioning on behalf of the protagonist. The protagonist go, is this really me? Should I be making this choice? Is this the guy I want? Is this the journey I want? Did I do something bad? Did I do something good? I'm awful. No, I'm not awful. Do I look okay? I don't look okay. All that kind of stuff, and the identity questions. And I think Kagawa handles them beautifully in this.
Wonderfully.
It's kind of relentless, but not relentless in the way that.
It's not boring.
No, in the Red Queen, when we reviewed the Red Queen, you get it the same over and over and over, and after a while, I think I said in the show, it was a bit like a broken record. You go, yeah, all right, I got it enough,
I heard one of your comments where you said that she kept repeating the same line, like the internal monologue was that you kept repeating the same thing.
Exactly.
Whereas This didn't. It was like, okay, I'm no longer a human, I'm a vampire now. Okay, now I am a vampire, I own it. Now there's monsters out there. Okay, now I've got to do this. Like, she totally, there wasn't any repetitiveness of the story. It completely kept evolving.
Yes, which means that the conflict keeps evolving, which is, of course, what tends to keep you interested as well. So I think, it hits the intended audience really nicely. I would think that, well, certainly girls 14 and up. I don't think there's anything other than some romance elements. Let me just quickly...
There's a little bit of romance.
Yeah, but it's certainly clean, no language.
Yeah. Oh, no. That's around the monster section and wanderer section, a little bit of romance, but not too heavy. Yeah.
And as you say, some great twists and turns in the settings in the different sections of the book there as well.
Yeah.
So not only is it pacey, but things are kept alive because we shift into different gears, and I did really like that aspect. Although I completely forgot that there were 4 sections in the book. I remember now, as soon as you mentioned it, I remember flicking past it and it says monster, because I read so fast, and on an iPad when you're reading fast, you're just flipping the pages. And you go, oh, right, okay, yes, and it's another chapter title to me. But of course, actually, it is an intended section. So
well, normally what I do is whenever I like a book, like an audio, I buy the book as well, and then I can keep going backwards and forwards on it. I've got it reserved at Barnes and Nobles, and I haven't had a chance to pick it up. And I'm like, I want the book. I want to see what the pages look like, how she's laid it out, and things like that. Because I love the concept of the 4 broken out stories.
So here's the question for any reader as well. Would you read on? Would you continue in the series?
Yeah, I can't wait. I really like the side story of Cain.
Which we don't know really much about at all.
No, but I'm very, I like really, as you know, dark, gritty stories.
Read the War Kids, people. You're going to be...
They'll give you nightmares. So the Cain story sideline on this really drew me in because I know that story is going to evolve.
Yes.
And I just like the audio of it. It was so creepy. Like, she got the voice so like eerie and creepy. Okay. And it became like, even though it's only a small section within like a dreams, it becomes such a bigger section within the audio. So I can't wait to see that evolve, that storyline. And I do feel that that's going to be in book 2, because obviously where the book ended is naturally going to progress to the Cain story.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to that.
And we should say as well, this is not one of those book ones where you end it and you think, oh, come on, this is a very complete story.
Yeah, but every section I felt was very complete. Of the sections, it was it was beautifully done.
But like you say, there's enough foreshadowing in there. And that's, I think, also, and we're sort of segueing now probably into writer's perspective, when an author can write a character that in and of itself, he's become a foreshadow, because you just know that there's going to be some more to do with Kanan. So, So from a writer's perspective, we'll switch hats. One of the things that I really loved was this whole premise that instead of the vampires being, sparkly or evil, there was some sense that, well, there are evil ones, but also good ones. And it's a little bit like, I suppose, the angel stories as well. You get the good ones and you get the broken ones. But she's chosen to be a vampire doing good. And I like the premise. I thought that kind of got me because I wasn't sure where it was going. In fact, most of the book I wasn't sure where it was going, which was nice.
That's a good surprise. It's good when that happens. Yeah, I did like the angle. As I said, I'm not really a Twilight person. And when I saw the way that the story was evolving and that she was, like a really strong, kick-ass girl, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to have some really great action scenes, which weren't disappointing. They were, gory and great. And I thought the pace of the book was very good, with the balance of, we had the great world building, but also we didn't lose the character development. We didn't lose the pace and we didn't lose the the action. So we had the four, key elements all merging seamlessly together. And some authors focus on the world building, some of the characters, and I did feel that she had a very good balance throughout telling the story.
Definitely.
Which I thought was really great. Like, I aspire to a writer as wonderful as her because of the way that she's able to capture every single element.
That's
sound, smell, touch. She
well
was there.
observed. You're well observed. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think as a lesson in writing to any genre, not just YA, this is really nicely written. When I say nicely, that sounds terrible, but as you say, there's a balance of character and setting, but also a balance of character and plot and twists, and we get bits of each throughout. You've got the classic sort of chapter cliffhangers as well that make you want to turn the page. And
I love cliffhangers.
Yeah, me too. I'm forever going to sleep 2 hours later than normal because of this. So I think you feel like you're in the hands of a skilled author. I mean, not as a reader. As a reader, you're immersed in the story, but as an author, when you sort of like for the show, you're reading it, thinking. Wow, that's really masterful to be able to keep you immersed and yet slowly drip feed all these elements in there, not make the angst repetitive at all for Ali. It was, as you said, there's a lot to learn. And I've written in my notes of what feels like pantsing with loose plotting. So it's kind of interesting because you read some pantsing stories and you go, oh yeah, okay, that came out of nowhere, so you're probably a pantser, but it sort of worked. Whereas this, you sort of think, oh, that sort of came out of nowhere, but it feels like it's part of the plot.
It really did.
Yeah.
There was such a beautiful flow to the book.
Yes.
I only found a couple of things that I felt were flaws within the book.
Why don't you lead with those?
It was in the first book, in the human part, where she had the love interest.
Yes.
But it wasn't really a love interest, and it wasn't needed. I didn't feel. I feel that little payout was forced. I think the friendship and the bond that she had with the friends told the story enough. She didn't need the insecurity that's played out in the book 3 and within the section, the monster section. So I felt that was a little bit forced for me. It wasn't really needed.
It's almost as if there's an editor may have come back and said, look, we need to save the cat moment right at the start. We need to have more empathy with Ali because she is a bit
tough.
A bit. She's not just tough though. She's very self-centered. In a way that she's had to. She's grown up on the streets scavenging for food. And it reminds me, by the way, I must mention, I love the scenes where all of a sudden now, because she's a vampire, she's got these. She's associating with humans, and I love this. This what if if this is true, then what else? As Brian says, it must be true. And so, she's a vampire. She wants to do good. She's kind of still on the side of humans because she hated the bloodsuckers so much.
Yes.
But then she's standing next to one who's really meaty and juicy, and she's just thinking, "Oh, I'm so hungry."
I really like that.
Those scenes were fantastic. They really introduced another level of conflict that was really lovely, and she has to fight with herself.
Yeah, the sassiness that there was there. Yeah. Like, oh, he looks so tasty, but don't do it. But he does. Yeah,
that's right. I know. And then so you've got these sort of places where she makes mistakes, and as you say, this section at the front. And funnily enough, my the bit that I didn't quite get me in right at the start was there's quite a lot of backstory in the first chapter or so. It's very well done, but I will say there are a couple of authors who write as well as this who I think do it far better, and but they are standout. I mean, so for me, have you read The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater? You have to.
No, I saw your review on that one. That's on my list.
It's so good, and she. They're just throwaway lines, when you're an orphan in Thisbe, she just throws it, and you go, okay, so you've just got one line, it's self-referential, but you just know that's dripping something in there. Whereas Julie Kagawa tends to do a bit more of the explaining style, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But given the pace of the book, I would, it's hard. I don't know if I could have written it any better.
No.
And the other one who does it really well is J.K. Rowling, and
Yeah.
of course, once you're releasing so many books and you've got these kids who are growing up every year and new kids coming in to read that book and may not have read the ones previously, she's got to do backstory, and even Stephen King says that she's the master of backstory. So there you go. So it's a minor criticism, as you say, it's a flaw really, and it's still easily a 5-star book.
Yes, and I was googling it to find out, when the movie's coming out, because she's down to Paramount, I think it is.
Yep.
But she signed 2012, and there's nothing of when the movie is coming out, so I'm very, very disappointed.
I know,
because I was very excited when I thought there was going to be a movie, and the dream cast really is a dream cast. It's a wonderful cast. That was the
really?
dream cast.
But I have to
like I saw,
that.
When you see the faces matching the characters.
Yes. And you think, that's right. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, it would be really good. So I do hope that it will eventually come out at some point to a movie.
Yes, who knows? I think with these really best-selling series, there's a very good chance of it. Certainly in my local bookstore, Judy Kagawa's got a pretty significant shelf, and a lot of it is this series. I mean, she has other books too, which I think are more adult or even maybe more romantic. So I think this is probably the lower end of the way. So
I may skip the romantic books then.
yeah, that's right.
Not really a fan of romantic books.
But I think there'd be enough in here in this series for sure. So yeah, I would hope that the movie would come to fruition. But you never know. When they sell options, sometimes they just go into that big black hole.
Yes, I hope not.
Do you have anything else from a writer's perspective? And before we head into takeaways.
I think that was everything that everything that I could think of from the book. Obviously, I did love it, and I'll be getting it and I'll be highlighting it and studying it like my Bible. Yes. Because just some of one of the chapters, it was when they were trying to cross the water. In the monster section, and I could totally visualize it. And it was like dark, and there was the water, and it was just the way that she described it was beautiful.
Yeah, and then is that when they have that fight in that big wooden warehouse thing? And,
that one was good. As well.
So the fighting action is really good. So
really good. Yeah, so, not dragged out, just the right length.
No. Yeah. Brian, you've got to listen to this. He loves fight scenes.
No supernatural for him.
Yeah, that's right. I did put a note, actually. I must admit, I should also backtrack a bit on the whole exposition and backstory stuff. I've made a note here that if you actually read earlier books, books sort of decades older, you will find a lot more exposition and backstory. It was a more common way of writing, but I do think that our current TV and internet consumption habits have made us impatient for action and real-time action as well. So we don't so much like flashbacks anymore or lengthy scenes describing the setting or how they got to be where they are. And so I suspect most YA readers, for example, would really struggle with things like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings in printed form.
Yeah, no, I agree, because a lot of I mainly listen to YA books and read YA books, and I personally really like normally the second book in the series, because I like the action. I like it to move, everything to be moving very quickly. So this one grabbed me. It was moving. Like the first chapter, I've read a few reviews where people like it where you're thrown in on chapter 1, and it's like you're immersed in the action from chapter 1. Absolutely. Not that slow build up. No. I think romantic books and things like that, you can have that slow build up, but with this type of book, it's just straight in there with action, and you understand what you're going to get from that book, and I like a way that it's set for you.
Yes. So don't take my there's too much backstory in the opening sections as being that it actually drags the pace. It doesn't drag the pace. I just thought it could have been handled slightly differently. That's all. So you will find Ali explains a few things as she goes along. So it's kind of breaking the fourth wall. She's talking to the reader almost, and that's okay. You know, we do get that. There are plenty of big authors who do that. So
she's telling rather than showing.
Yeah. And you kind of have to, I suppose, because we are talking about, you know, a post-vampire apocalypse, which perfect for Halloween, of course. So, you know, Halloween in a couple of days, there'll be people out. If you're trick-or-treating, maybe you should be out there being a vampire doing good. So now we're going to go into Hayley and Robert's famous takeaways. We normally have 3 of these, and so would you like to take the first and the third, or the middle one? How would you like to go? What would you take away from this book?
What would I take away from this book? As a writer or as a reader? Either. It's one strong, kick-ass girl that's going to make you stand up and want to fight against vampires.
Yes, totally. even if we are one ourselves. So we should have worn fangs. I know. I could have got painted up for Halloween and everything. We wasted on the audio. So, yes, thank you very much. My takeaway number 2 is, and you're the one who brought this up, actually, conflict. The conflict in this book is really clever. There's plenty of likeable characters who are kind of horrible, but also, you know, when I say likeable, I mean you sort of like them as villains. And you've got properly motivated villains who've got their own agenda. You've got Alison's own predicament, and it just comes together to make a really good pacey adventure. Definitely a strong story. Yeah. And final takeaway from you, do you have something else?
Final takeaway, as an author, I would make this book your Bible.
Yes.
And study it, as I shall be doing.
Yes.
To improve my trade.
Most definitely, yeah. It's a nicely crafted story that's going to really appeal to that YA set. And you can tell from the reviews.
Yeah.
Well, we'll end with the prompt of the week and before pointing to what we're reviewing next with Trudy next week. So here's a writing prompt. Your protagonist is forced to become a modern YA trope character, such as a werewolf, witch, vampire, or ghost. How does this make it almost impossible to achieve his or her goal except by using one aspect of their new life to their advantage? You can write your response to the prompt in the comments, or you can send us an email. We're at podcast@thesplitbookreviews.com. You can head over to the website at thesplitbookreviews.com. You can tweet us at thesplitbook. That's just singular, at thesplitbook. And Hayley, hjlawson.com. Where is the best place for people to find you? I know I just plugged it, but you can plug it again. And what would you love them to go and pick up and start reading?
Well, you can find me on my website, hjlawson.com, on Amazon. And I actually have a vampire series myself, Hidden Slayers. It's a kick-ass vampire slayer story, which has a government conspiracy maze runner twist to it.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes, it's so I'm currently on book 3. So if you go to my website, you can actually sign up and receive the book 1 for free. It's not out yet. It's not going to be due to launch till January the 1st. So it's an advance copy, about 2 months in advance.
Nice.
So this one's I'm very, very excited about this series.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
As with all of my others.
Good to hear. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, there you go. If you didn't hear it before, it's hjlawson.com, and you heard it here first. That's fantastic. So that was episode 53. Now, next week we return with Trudy J from the Magic Carnival series. I just remembered it. And we'll be reviewing a James Patterson novel, which is part of the Maximum Ride series, the first book in the Maximum Ride series, called The Angel Experiment. Very interesting to read from one of those big marketing huge names. So looking forward to that one. And then the week after that, we'll be returning with the lovely Hayley, and we shall be reviewing An Ember in the Ashes. And this was recommended to us from Lucky Calicar, but it was already on the list. Another one I was really dying to read. And also it's a debut as well. So this is kind of going to be an interesting read, I believe. So Hayley, thank you very much for taking the time for to review the Immortal Rules with me, and for stepping in to really do Brian some justice here, because I think he's going to have some big shoes to fill when he comes back. 15-hour books with that much detail, very nicely done. So thank you. And I'm Robert Scanlon from the Dreamer Chronicles. That is Hayley Lawson, or H.J. Lawson, from all sorts of YA series, including a super vampire one coming up. And that is it for The Split for this week. We'll be right back. And if you're out on Halloween, I would suggest that you cover your neck.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to The Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.